When your mind is distracted by other people's ideas, which so often they are, the reels, the YouTube videos, which I'm not saying they're all necessarily bad, but when we continuously consume, our ideas are probably 95% somebody else's. When you aren't scrolling on social media, when you aren't giving heed to other people's ideas, and you're instead giving heed to your own ideas, writing them down, you start to recognize exactly how many ideas you have, how many ideas that are uniquely yours. Your ideas are completely unique to you. The hardest thing any artist ever has to go through is the creative block. Well, besides a couple of other things, but the creative block is really what holds the artist back from making true progress. And you could relate it in a lot of ways, just to simply life. You could relate it to anything, right? If you're trying to do better at something, it's gonna be hard. For example, have you guys ever noticed, and maybe this is completely unrelated, but have you guys ever noticed how whenever you're about to do something really, really great, suddenly things start to change? For example, the second I had gotten back from my honeymoon, I'd come back to find that my car had been robbed. We had all these different plans. We had these plans for saving money. And it was kind of a shocker for us. And we had to really come to terms with ourselves and realize, okay, well, now we have to change strategies. This is what we have to do. We could have given up at that very moment, but it is just, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a cycle of life. Maybe it's a coincidence. But I really, truly believe that there is a semi-opposing force out there that really doesn't want us to succeed, and that's the honest and hard truth. Maybe I'm just being a crazy hippie about it, but that's honestly how I feel. But we all struggle with it. From time to time, we really, really struggle with it. We don't know what to draw. Or when we do draw or paint or try to write or do anything creative at all, we tend to feel unsatisfied, like we aren't truly fulfilling what we came here to do in the first place. And that stings. It really, really hurts. I have a solution for you guys, and I've made a video about it already, but I haven't talked about the specific topic I'm going to share, and that is journaling. I know that's kind of shocking, but for some reason, a lot of people don't like to journal, and they really try to procrastinate it in so many ways. But I really have found it to be one of the best tools, not only just for setting goals and things like that, but on the creative side. I've been able to really expand my brain, and I'm going to talk to you guys about those very things in just a little bit. It's been absolutely phenomenal to see what such a simple practice can do to the mind. But let's think of it like this. But the brain is kind of like a muscle or a seed. You really need to water it, you need to nourish it, you need to exercise it, and then it'll start to grow. But the bad news is that it's not an easy process to exercise or to water this or to nourish it so that it can grow. The good news is when it does start to grow, you notice it very, very quickly. And believe it or not, it really only takes a week to a month to truly develop that creative muscle. So how is my journal helping me to become a more creative artist? Helping me to develop ideas, helping me to develop inspiration? I've taken the time every single day to take notes, to write a little bit about my day, things that are going on. I've taken time to plan different video ideas. I've taken time to plan different goals and how I wanted to approach it. I've made missions, I've made goals for myself. You might even see that I've doodled a little. I've spent some time doodling. That whole little squiggly area at the bottom of my page was all just doodles. And what initially was a plan to essentially delete social media from my life became so much more. I really encouraged myself to start sketching, start drawing with some of the Prismacolors that I haven't touched in a long time. And honestly, my whole entire purpose for this journal in the beginning, it was to get me away from social media, but also to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. Yeah, I think it's working out. I even drew some like kind of weird, creepy ball dude. I don't know. What would you call him? I have no idea. You see, the average person is always receiving ideas. We're always receiving different ideas. We're always receiving different types of motivation. Even on the bad days, we have some ideas. We have some motivation. The one mistake we make is that we don't write those things down. We don't jump straight to the board and start sketching those ideas onto the page. In fact, we oftentimes neglect those creative ideas, those creative inspirations. And when we neglect those creative inspirations, we also neglect our growth. Even if that idea that we wrote down never comes to fruition and never becomes something physical or more than just the idea is there. And what you're communicating to your mind is that I do care about these thoughts. I do care about these ideas. Don't stop giving them to me because I need more. That's why I'm writing it down. The second you put something on paper, and I'm not talking about your phone, it's a completely different thing. When it's on paper, something that is tangible, something that is physical, there's a mental shift that takes place. You've put the idea out on paper and now it is going to try and materialize in your life in whatever means it takes. Not only that, the journal has also become a great replacement for my phone, like I mentioned. When your mind is distracted by other people's ideas, which so often they are, when we feed off of other ideas so frequently, the reels, the YouTube videos, which I'm not saying they're all necessarily bad, but when we continuously consume and we are addicted to that consumption, our ideas are probably 95% somebody else's. When you aren't scrolling on social media, when you aren't giving heed to other people's ideas, and you're instead giving heed to your own ideas, writing them down, you start to recognize exactly how many ideas you have, how many ideas that are uniquely yours. Your ideas are completely unique to you. I think we forget how powerful that is in the marketplace, how much demand there is for unique projects, for unique concepts. When I go to an art gallery and I look through everybody's art, which I'm trying to make a habit of going to art galleries a little bit more frequently, but when I do this, I recognize patterns. It's kind of a weird, eerie feeling, but there's patterns, whether it's political patterns on the canvas or it's creative patterns on the canvas, right? It's because these students are with each other in a classroom space and they're taking ideas from each other, which again is not necessarily a bad thing. You take ideas from people and you create your own, but they're not uniquely or individually yours. So you see so much of the same thing, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, you do see that piece. And maybe you guys have an experience with this. You do see that piece, and it communicates to you in such a way, and you realize this is special. It's that split second, that moment in which your mind registers and sees the power within it, the energy that went into creating this individual idea. This idea that maybe isn't just from you, but maybe from something higher, someone higher. Do you think that's possible? Do you think it's possible that constantly these ideas that are flooding into our brains, the ones that we let pass or we write down, are from someone much greater than us? Do you think that it's some sort of coincidence that you create things in the way that you do? And I know everybody's gonna think I'm crazy just by saying this, but is it so crazy to believe in a God who's divine? Is it so crazy to think that creativity wouldn't come from God? If God, being, say, our Father in heaven, doesn't translate some of those same attributes to us, then what is he to us? God creates all of his children in his image. And what does God do? Above all other things, he creates. It's the reason people are so drawn to art. They're so drawn to books and stories. It's the creation, the element of creation that draws us nearer to God. It's when we have that creative idea, that creative story plot that floods into our brain out of nowhere, that suddenly we become so fixated. This idea becomes so real within our minds, and all we want is to see it come into fruition. The number one thing you need to do to become more creatively fit is to buy a journal and write down every single idea that comes to your mind. And if you find inspiration from other people, there's not an issue with that. It's just the act of writing it down, putting it onto something that is physical, that creates an energy in your life, that invites more growth. And the thing is, I know that as I'm saying this and as I'm closing this video off, I know that you know that. And that's exactly why you feel the way that you do watching this video. I invite you to buy a journal right after this. I have another video on journaling and how it can change your life, help you set some goals, and overcome addictions and even your cell phone. My name is Gabe the Painter, and I will see you in the next video.